Wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome. You are listening to the Muslim Mindset with me, your host, Mudasa Chowdhury, on Ramadan Radio London 87.9 FM, online at ramadanradio.org and streaming on Facebook and YouTube. Please call, text, WhatsApp us with your feedback, questions, comments on 077 614 60614. That's 077 614 60614. Alhamdulillah, we're very, very grateful to be hosting our second show this Ramadan. And once again, we've got a great panel of guests with us. First, we have Rais Saeed, who's graduated in economics from the University of Leicester and is the founder of Amazing, the marketplace for Muslims. And secondly, we have with us Zaid Patel, who was born and grew up in Newham. He graduated in accounting and finance, has been in the property game for 8 years, and now runs a family business, High Castle Estate, which is based in Stratford. So without further ado, we'll get right kicked off with our guests. And I'll start off with you, Rais. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, where you grew up, what you do today, please.
Yeah, sure. So, salam, first of all. Thank you for having me. About myself, really, I grew up in quite a non-Muslim area. My family are mixed race. So, my dad is Indian and my mum is a revert. So, she's Caribbean and English. So, from a very early age, we've had a very mixed family. And from going into university at Leicester, quite a culture shock for me from where I'm used to being from. And I went on to study economics. After I studied economics, pretty much 3 days after my last exam, I got chucked into the family business, which is water technology and water treatment. And since then, I haven't looked back, and I've been working with the family and growing the business from there on strategy. And then, as of probably about a year and a half ago, we started the foundations for setting up Amazing, which is what we'll be talking about a little bit later.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Rais. And over to you, Zaid. Same question again. Tell us a little bit about yourself, background. We already know you grew up in Newham, but, where you went to school, if you feel comfortable sharing that, and what you do today before we get kicked off specifically on High Castle Estates.
Assalamu alaikum. So, yeah, as you know, I was born in Newham. I went to St. Bonds actually, so not far from you as well. And then I went to St. Bonds College. After that, I went to South Bank Uni, graduated in accounting. But I've always had something that I wanted to do in business. I always used to do a bit of eBaying here and there. I used to have so much stock at my house; it was unbelievable. Came out of uni at 21. Just after the recession, so 2011, didn't get a job for about 18 months. Applied for this grad jobs, normal jobs, accounting jobs, even admin jobs, just couldn't find anything. During that time, I did do some work experience for a local accountancy firm, unpaid, didn't get paid. And then after that, I got a job, which I didn't actually apply for, so alhamdulillah. It was in a local estate agency where I just did the accounts. It was a part-time initially, and then it grew into a full-time role. I stayed there for about 2 years. Then I opened another company with a few friends, Sapphire Residential, which is based in Canary Wharf. There we did a lot of house shares and room shares. I was there for about 2 years, and then High Castle Estates by then had already started. My brother and my dad were setting it up, but by then, once we had the plan to open a new branch, that's when I came across, and that's when I started with the family business. So about 3 years ago now, I think.
Perfect. Amazing. And eBay brings back lots of memories for me. I used to be, what was the word? Top rated seller? Was it top rated seller or power seller? I can't remember what it was now.
It could be either. I think I was top rated, and I can't remember, the feedback was quite a lot, but I haven't done it for ages now.
Yeah. I did that when I was in year 9. So what, 2000 and, gosh, I feel so old now. 2000, what, 10? 2011? Yeah, I remember. I used to sell, guess what I used to sell? BlackBerry phone covers.
Another thing I actually used to do was I used to recycle phones. So I used to buy phones for just say 30 quid. I'm talking about Nokia 6210s. And then you can recycle it for about 40 quid. It would pay for like a week's travel them days.
Amazing. Perfect. So, while we got you here, Zaid, tell us how the idea for High Castle Estates came about. You spoke that your dad and your brother were thinking about it, but give us a bit more insights into the origins.
So initially, my brother used to manage a handful of properties, just family properties. Actually, sorry, before that, the family properties, they were given to just local estate agents. I think sometimes we weren't happy with the service. So then that's when my dad decided, why don't we manage it myself? So my brother was already in the lettings industry as it is. So he came over and he started managing it. And then once they've decided for me to come on board, that's when we decided we started off in a service office in Barking, and then we moved across to Stratford, just near Morrison's, where we found a unit, a retail unit, and then we thought, okay, let's do this properly. We refurbish it. So we started in lettings only, and then we moved over to sales, and now we work in social housing as well as construction. We've started to.
Yeah, no, perfect. And similar question to you now, Raiz. Tell us about, the origins of the amazing idea, pun intended.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Sure. So I kind of touched on it a little bit previously there. So like I say, where I grew up, I didn't really have access to very easy sort of halal areas, and it took a little bit of traveling to get to. And one of the major parts of Islam really is that community, that feeling of the ummah. So growing up, where as well, I wasn't too integrated into social media, so you couldn't reach out online too much. I didn't really have that. So like I said, when I went to the University of Leicester to do economics, it was a bit of a culture shock, but it was a beautiful thing because you had one, a very good Muslim community there, and two, the interesting thing I found was there was a lot of businesses that were catering for halal, but interestingly, they weren't necessarily Muslim run, which I found was really interesting because here you could see like there were individuals from different communities that understood the benefits of inclusivity, which really resonated with me. So I spent 3 years doing my degree there. My Ramadans were always the best when I was there, to be honest, because it's so easy to really resonate in that month and to really reflect. And when you've got good company, it's a very, very important thing. And obviously after my 3 years I was a little bit not gutted, but you go back to what you had before, and it's not really feasible to take a whole city with you or to move straight away. But when I came back, and I was looking for the types of small businesses that I was used to popping into, that sort of thing, and the situation I found myself was thinking, okay, well maybe I'll look online. And the thing that I did was Instagram was getting quite big with the small Muslim businesses. But the only way to find them was by really kind of honing in on those hashtags, and then once you start finding them, the algorithm kicks in, then you fall into a whole rabbit hole of them. So what I thought to myself was, well, I'm going to look around, but I can't really see a marketplace that kind of brings all these places together. And it wasn't really for a business perspective, it was more just to make a nice platform that I can find all these things. So if I can solve a problem for myself, hopefully it will solve it for others. And that's usually how some things start, to be honest. So the first thing I did was I went to my brother. I'm an identical twin, and he's the more sensible one. I'll tell you that outright. And I said to him, look, I'm looking for a name. And the first thing he said was, well, let's do a play on words with the word ummah. And straight away we went for like imagination and all different ones, and eventually amazing came. I thought, right, let's get on GoDaddy, let's get the .com, and then luckily it was available, and that was a great move. So we nicked the .com there, and I got that trademarked as well. But I kept with the kind of principle. So I found a guy on LinkedIn that I had connected with, Muslim guy. He'd just set up his own IP company, and I reached out to him. I didn't know him. I just reached out to him and said, look, this is what I'm doing. Can you sort me out? So that was the first start of it there. And the next move was to pitch it to my friends, the ones that I thought could really bring some value to it. Mm-hmm. And then they took onto the idea really quickly. Initially, it was going to be an app, but raising the funds for it and then COVID hitting really put a kind of halt onto what we were doing. So we kind of pivoted, and I said to myself, well, what's the easiest way to get to market right now? And learning how to make a website and using YouTube to do it is a good start. And alhamdulillah, we put a soft launch date for ourselves on December 11th to try and understand how many businesses were interested. And alhamdulillah, loads came through. It was a simple Google form, and a lot of people were understanding what we were trying to do. So then we set ourselves a timeline to try and get the department set up and the marketplace looking like a marketplace, and make sure people were paid. And yeah, we got to April 5th with everything ticked off, and now we have a free marketplace that truly is free for businesses to go on and get an extra revenue channel for them. And alhamdulillah, you know, it's a lot of work, but we're so happy to be part of it and to meet these businesses and see how well they're doing, especially during Ramadan. It's been fantastic.
No, that sounds amazing, and something that's very close to my heart, as
Yeah,
empowering and promoting small businesses, and
definitely.
and it shows you, right, how good company can bring it through so much positivity. And it reminds you of the prophetic saying, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, around, how a good friend is like walking through a perfume shop and it will leave you smelling good. And a bad friend is like walking through an iron mine and you'll come back, have your face all darkened.
Yeah.
And it's so true. And it's amazing to see. And while we got you here, so you mentioned in the beginning you work full time in your family's business around water solutions.
Yeah.
So how did you do that balance of ensuring you're working full time for the family business, and then not only thinking of an idea but setting it up, doing all the groundwork,
Yeah.
contacting with all these small businesses? I mean, when I wrote my thread, it used to take me hours. I used to have like cancel meetings here and do this here, and it was a bit of a struggle doing it informally. So I can only imagine how it was doing it the way you did.
Yeah, I mean, to touch on the first point of that, you know, when you work in a family business as well, I work directly with my dad, which has its pros and its cons because you take work home, you take family to work as well. So, when I first joined, you know, I kind of got the idea that it wasn't a 9 to 5 job that I was working, and I think, you know, Zaid will really appreciate this. It's a livelihood you're working for, and the work doesn't stop. You want to grow the business, and you want to, you know, keep everyone's incomes going, especially when COVID hit. You know, we're responsible for other people, so we really had to pivot and make sure it was that, you know, we were pushing through. So the intensity really did get, you know, higher when the idea for Amazing came through, which probably wasn't the best timing. But what happened was I was quite honest with my dad, and I said to him, look, you know, I've got this idea. And my dad, being my dad, you know, he said, all right, if you've got an idea, let's present it. So he got me in front of the TV, connect it HDMI, connect my laptop to the TV, and start presenting the idea that I had, which was very premature at the time. But I presented it. It was a bit of a Dragon's Den moment, to be honest. But I presented it, and you know, the feedback was great. It wasn't one of those like, Reese, you've got another idea, put it to sleep a little bit. But they really saw what I was trying to do. Um, and what they said to me was like, if you're passionate about it, let's find a way for you to be able to juggle it. So what I found was, once I got the groundwork done for the website and building it and getting in people that were cleverer than me, because you can't spread yourself too thin. And if you think that this is a business that's viable, you have to invest in it what you can, whether that be time and financially. And I made sure I did both. And then as soon as it was at a certain level, I was able to take a step back. And for me, that was at launch. But you're quite right, you know, being able to balance it at first was very difficult when you're not used to balancing it. But once you've got two horses running or two horses racing, you're able to kind of, you know, manage your time a little bit better. And, you know, that's not to say that each day I get it right and I go to sleep at 10:30 on the dot sort of thing. But it does help me be able to switch my cap or the hat that I'm wearing. So when it comes to going to work for my daily, you know, livelihood, which is the family business, I know that I have to focus with that, and I don't want to let my you know, my side business or the side hustle and for Amazing to trickle into it. But when you, like you quite rightly said there, Modesta, when you bring in good company and that good company becomes part of the vision, you know, they're supportive and they're willing to help you with that. So I'm able to delegate as well. And like I said, it's not delegate for power or anything like that. It's to delegate to people who are much cleverer than I am in different sectors, and to grow the business. So
Yeah.
alhamdulillah, good company is the solution, and a very supportive family is the solution.
Perfect. Perfect. And pivoting over to you, Zaid, running an estate agent it sounds like a mammoth task to me. I know like a lot of people that don't know real estate might not be able to realize all the hard work that goes behind the scene. I spent the first 3 years of my career just auditing and doing accounts for real estate companies, and I used to always think, damn, this must be such a tough job just doing everything. So I know organization is of absolute pivotal necessity in order to run an estate agent properly. So have you always been someone that's good at being organized, or did you get better through work? And how did you get better?
I don't think I'm an organized person as it is. Probably an organized chaos is the best way to call it. I think the most important part is to prioritize. And as Reese mentioned, you need to delegate as much as you can, but to prioritize your work and then also have the customer support systems in place, because in estate agency or letting agency, the legislations are so strict. So we have to make sure we keep on top of that. And again, I think the most challenging part was post COVID, where the market did take a dip. We had to adapt, and then alhamdulillah, the team actually doubled because of another department we created. And I think keeping organized with that, as well as giving time to the team, that was the most difficult. But I think prioritizing and delegation is probably the most important.
Mhm. And you know, eh, can you tell us a bit more about what goes into running an estate agent? Is it just sometimes the idea can be you're just sitting in a lush office once a month, they're going to go and collect rent, and now everything's online. You're just going to phone someone, hey, your rent is due, please pay, and that's pretty much it. But surely there's lots more that goes on behind the scenes. Do you want to give us a bit of idea into that?
Yeah, there's a lot more. So in terms of the letting side, the hardest part is to actually bring in the business. And as you probably walk down Stratford High Street, or you walk down any of the high streets in Newham, you see the competition there is. So one thing is to drum up the competition and how we do it. So a lot of it's online marketing, Instagram, Facebook ads, even TikTok these days. We actually get more in TikTok, more meetings and appointments through TikTok than through Instagram or Facebook, which is surprising. And then it's one of the most strictest industries when it comes to legislation, and it's constantly changing. So, for example, if you're a landlord and you came to us and we didn't serve a simple document to the tenant when it comes to eviction, that's going to be an issue for the landlord. So we have to have them checklists in place, and then again it goes back to organization, and then the sales side. Again, the most important thing is drumming up the business, but then we have to deal with solicitors, mortgage brokers. Sometimes it's a chain of 3, 4, 5 people buying houses, so you have to make sure that doesn't fall apart. But again, alhamdulillah, we've got a very good team. And I think, again, like Reis mentioned, there's a lot in the team who do things better than I do, and they carry the business. So it gives me an opportunity to rather do the day-to-day operational tasks. I can have a bird's eye view and work on the business rather than in the business itself, which I think is key in running, not just an estate agency, just any business itself.
Yeah, no, very, very, very good points there. And you both mentioned around having good support structures around you and realizing where your weaknesses are. I think sometimes when people set out to open up a business, and I feel I'm guilty for this too, you think of all the things you can't do, and you sort of be like, you know what, this probably isn't the right thing for me to do. Yeah, I've got a good idea, but I don't know how to do marketing, for example. Or, I've got this great idea, but I hate numbers. How am I going to work out the finances? Or all of these small things, which sort of are barriers to entry into the market. But like you mentioned, you've got to realize that no, this is my weakness, and there's someone going to be out there who believes in that vision, believes in my ambitions, and will be able to support me through that, whether that's through employing someone like yourself, Zaid, whether it's through finding people on LinkedIn the way you did, Ra'is, or people on social media, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, whatever it might be. So really, really key points there. Moving on to the next segment of the show, which is around balance and managing your work-life balance, managing ibadah in Ramadan, etc. To you first, Reese, you mentioned around that atmosphere in Leicester where Ramadan is like the best time, right? And now, as someone who's out of studies, who's working full time, who's running a side hustle per se, how how do you make adjustments to your life to ensure you've got a good work-life balance? So putting ibadah to the side for a second,
Yeah.
just ensuring you're getting the right time to take breaks, meeting your friends. I mean, you work with your family, but still getting proper family time. So how does
Yeah.
everything work out for you?
No, 100%. I think for me, I'm someone that really likes routine. Anyone that knows me will know that I really like routine. If it comes to managing my work tasks, I have an app for that. You know what I mean? So I schedule everything. And for me as well, I understand what my weaknesses are, in the sense of there's only so much you can do in the day. There are 24 hours in a day, and if you don't rest or you don't give yourself that time to recharge, then the way things are set up at the moment is you have to get up, go to work, do what you got to do at work, come back, and that time where you come back is very, very little. And at the moment with COVID, with a lot of people working from home, I'm not one of them at the moment, but the lines between home being a sanctuary and work being the place you have to go to make your money, is the lines are blurred. So if you have a good structure in place, which is what I try to do in terms of making sure I have cutoff times, or I'm getting home, or I'm making sure that I do a hobby at some point in the week. So for me, that includes, I'm a bit of an early riser, so I'll get up at 6 and go to the gym, when it was open, at least anyway. But I'll go to the gym and I'll give myself that time just to properly get my energy up, and relax from there, and then make sure I go to work pumped, ready to do what I've set out to do. But even if I'm running over, so like I said, I don't do the average 9 to 5 or anything like that, but I'll certainly leave the office by 6:30 maximum, because I know it's going to take me an hour to get home. I'm going to need that time, at least an hour or an hour and a half to myself, to be able to then start amazing, finish that off by probably 10 max. And I want some time there to be able to relax. And for me, that starts with turning off my social media. That's one thing I make sure I do, because that really, really can keep you up. And that's not something I used to do, so that's a new thing for me. And getting into a book. I know it sounds like really cliche, but sometimes it's better than watching TV. And making sure, whatever it is, it could be a book, TV, movie, whatever it is, going for a walk, so long as you give yourself that time before bed, that's really, really important. Because like I say, it's a routine and you have to get up and do it again the next day. So you need something as an individual to look forward to,
Yeah.
even if it's so little. When we have a working life, it's the little things that matter. And I think you'll appreciate that. Before you joined full-time work, you took for granted the free time you had. And that for me was at uni, like you're paying 9 grand or something for your degree. And you think at the time, oh my God, this is so intense, and the exams are really getting on top of me. But now I'm in full-time work, I'm thinking, wow, I had so much free time back then. So I really have to understand that I'm not going to get that luxury again unless I take a serious holiday. So I need to be able to give myself that luxury, even if it's in small packages. And for me, that's the way I do it. I structure my day and I give myself some cut-offs.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I didn't go university, right? I joined work at 18, so I didn't even
Yeah.
get that feeling of
You went
yeah, you
so
got loads
quick.
of free time. No, but you mentioned a few good things. I mean, for me, when I think of work-life balance, especially post-COVID, that so my bed is literally there. It's about 10 steps, and I'm on my desk, right? And when you get into that time frame, or you get into that mindset, I remember when COVID kicked off, I was working maybe 8 a.m. till 2 a.m. every day without realizing, because you're like, there's
Yeah,
nothing else to do. You can't go see your mates.
yeah,
TV's not all that, and then everything just sort of blurs out. And interesting, you mentioned around socials, closing off your socials. The only time I do that is when I'm on holiday. My,
yeah.
my phone is literally turned off in holiday mode. Only person I'm calling is my mum and my dad.
That's
That's
it.
it. Even my
Wow.
brothers and sisters, sometimes they won't hear from me until I'm back. So, it's funny how everyone has sort of similar ways of shutting off and getting their relaxation. Moving over to you, Zaid, when I think of real estate businesses, I'm thinking highly stressful environment. You've got really, really big money deals going on. Things can go haywire really quickly. How do you balance the stress of that environment? Because surely, obviously, it comes with the adrenaline pump. When something goes right and a deal's gone through, and like you mentioned, you might have a chain of 3, 4, 5 people, and if that works out, that adrenaline and that serotonin must be amazing. But when the flip happens, which is inevitable, right? Like things happen in business. How do you manage that stressful circumstance? How do you ensure you still got the motivation and confidence to try again the next time?
I think that's something that I had to learn over the years. So initially, when I started, I used to be one of them who'd start work at 7 o'clock, finish at 10 o'clock. Literally no work-life balance. But then, you read it on social media, so you hear about it everywhere that the one who works the hardest is the one who goes the furthest. But then I think after a while, you get to learn about yourself and learn a bit more about when you need to switch off. And I think that's over the last couple of years, I think that's the one thing that I've done is I know now when to switch off. So sometimes I'll switch off at 7 o'clock, and I won't answer anyone's phone calls. I won't answer anyone's texts because people would text you at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, and I just want to answer it until the next morning, until I get back in the office. And then it's also doing other activities as well. So spending time with family, spending time with, we spend a lot of time with our cousins, especially on weekends, and going out for walks. Social media as well. I've come off social media quite a bit, and it's actually helped a lot. Like my mind just feels a lot more freer than when I was scrolling on Twitter or Instagram before. But I think the key thing, and I think it's different for every person, is you have to know yourself, because I'm one of them people who would tell everyone else to get into a routine, but for me, I struggle to get into a routine myself, because sometimes if I have an idea at 5, 6 o'clock, I'll just be writing and planning away in my book until 8, 9 o'clock. But then sometimes at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, that could be my downtime. So I wouldn't do much work. I would be speaking to everyone in the office. So I think for me, just knowing when to switch off and learning your body and learning your mind.
Yeah, no. And important point you mentioned there in the beginning around, when you start off something new, you want to put all your time, your effort, your energy into it, and you don't have any work-life balance. And as someone who works, so I'm employed, right? I'm not self-employed. So for you guys, the more effort you put in, sort of, the more reward you get out. For me, it's fairly, I could work 8 hours or 80 hours. It's still the same reward at the end of the day, especially in financial terms, right? But what's very important is realizing how important the downtime is during everything. And it's easy to get lost in, the harder I'm going to work, the further I'm going to go, like you mentioned, Zaid. And, as a Muslim, sometimes I found that going down to pray was the best break I would get every day, right? That I'll be in a really stressful meeting, just come out, think of it, okay, I need to do X, Y, Z within the next 3 hours. This is like 20 days worth of work that I need to get done in half a day. Go down, pray your salahs, take 10, 15 minutes, come back up the stairs. And that little break from a screen and that little break from that environment has such a huge positive impact. And you don't realize it. Like things like going on the tube in the morning, that 40 minutes, that 50 minutes would be a really good way of just remembering, okay, this is my work now. It's done. The day's done. Tomorrow's tomorrow. I'm very similar to you. So, sometimes I'd get an idea. I just sort of ping myself. A lot of my inbox is just emails from me, think about this, do this, reach out to this person. But that break was really, really welcome. And I think with COVID, a lot of people have struggled just because it's so hard to disconnect from work. And the mere fact is there's not much else to do. If it was working from home pre-COVID, you can go out with your mates to a restaurant, go out with your family, like you mentioned, like going out with your cousins. I mean, every Saturday I'd go out with my cousins pretty much. And not being able to do that, it's a bit weird. And you're thinking, okay, I've got nothing else to do. Why can I not just make my life a bit easier and work? But what you realize with work is never ending, right? You can never get to a stage where you finish at the end of the day and be like, you know what? I'm done. There's nothing else to do. Because employed, self-employed, whatever life you're in, that never finishes. And work is something that's constant. So getting that balance, getting that break is so, so important. And that can be in any way, shape, or form, right? Very similar to you, Zaid. Like on a Friday after Jummah, I'm pretty much in a shutdown mode. I might pick things up on a Saturday, I might pick things up on a Sunday, but for me, I know after Jummah, I want to take that time out to do my own things. Spend time with my family, do shopping, do some reading, whatever that might be. Coming on to the final segment, which is around Ramadan, being on Ramadan radio, and in the final few days of Ramadan. How have you managed, and this to you first, Rais, how have you managed to, integrate ibadah into your schedules, right? Because you got to think of, you've got Tarawih prayer, then you've got waking up in the middle of the morning for suhoor, and then that breaking your sleep, and then you're trying to do whatever extra good deed you're trying to do, whether that's reading some more Quran or memorizing some surahs, listening to some podcasts or listening to the seerah, or whatever that might be, whatever small, big action that might be. But it's still, anything even small is quite a big adjustment to packed schedules. So how have you been able to balance that?
I think you're quite right. Anything you do, especially during Ramadan, because we try to better ourselves during that month, and hopefully it's habits we can take on after that month and keep permanently. But it's an addition. So it's an addition to your normal schedule. So you're quite right. And as I touched on before, I'm a person that likes a schedule. I'm absolutely obsessed with a schedule. And when it comes to that, I work to deadlines as well. So even if it's at work, that's how I work from that side. But personally as well, I like to set myself goals. So when it came to Ramadan, even before it was starting, I kind of, you see them online. They have like Ramadan journal planners sort of things. And me again, I'm just an app type of guy, so I stick everything in my notes. But I'd set myself goals for after Salah, like I don't know, read 2 or 4 pages of Quran, or on this day I'm going to watch this YouTube video or listen to this podcast, because I want to be able to dedicate X amount of time within my day to be able to reflect. And that was actually quite good, because when it got to the last 10 nights, it didn't feel like, right, now I've got to really put in the extra effort for the last 10 nights. It was more of an addition to what I was already doing. And if I could set myself up within Ramadan to be able to sort myself out nicely with a schedule, so I didn't end up sleeping at stupid o'clock, then I could wake up at stupid o'clock ready to eat and finish Suhoor and pray Fajr. So for me, it was about setting up the schedule ready to do it. But it was also about adding little tasks marginally and accumulating them over time. So 2 pages turned to 4, then to, I don't know, 10 and stuff like that. But then also adding on different things and mixing up the schedule, because if you do things monotonously, don't get me wrong, it's good to do them, but if you could split it up, it keeps your concentration. And you touched on really well there when you were talking about Friday prayer and Jummah and taking that time for yourself after. For me at work, balancing that side as well. I'm quite lucky because, like I said, it's a family business. So when it's time to pray, I'm able to just go and pray. But that being said, when all hell is breaking loose in the office and things are going wrong, or things are really stressful, and you could cut the tension with a knife, and pillars app goes off, for example, and it's time to pray, I'm able just to go down there and pause, which is a really, really important thing. So from that perspective as well, it's actually something to look forward to. I don't just see it as Ramadan and fitting it in. I see it as I've got my 5 prayers and the extra, but also these little things that I'm adding are actually enriching my day. And if I don't see it as a chore and I switch up the circumstance and see it as pausing, that's a really important thing, and it helps me keep my concentration, so it doesn't feel so monotonous, so mechanical. And I know so many Muslims suffer with that, and that's something I'm trying to improve on every day.
No, very, very important point. And gonna shamelessly plug the title of the show, but it's about mindset, right?
That's
It's about getting yourself into that mindset, moving away from this is a chore where I need to go up and down in Salah. I need to open and read 20 pages of the Quran today, and moving away from that mindset to a mindset of this is enriching me. I'm doing this stuff to empower myself, to better myself, to improve myself. And it's a tough struggle, right? I mean, you have scholars that struggle with that, and you have people that you might think, oh my god, this person is so pious, this person's taqwa is out of the charts, but people generally struggle with it. And I think that's the beauty of iman, right? It's not constant, it's not empirical, it's not scientific. It adjusts according to you, and the more you adjust, the more your iman adjusts. And we just hope that trend, it's a bit like Bitcoin, we just hope it's keep going up and up and up and up.
Exactly.
I'm not a Bitcoin trader before anyone starts getting at to me, right?
You can see the replies popping up now.
But that's what it's like. Zaid, in COVID, you've been open when you've been allowed to be open, and I know you're in the office right now, and you employ quite a lot of people. So with all of this going around, how do you ensure you give yourself time off for Ramadan appropriately, and your employees to make sure they're able to make the most of the month?
I think it's about being flexible with yourself and the team as well. So for me personally, I just started a little bit later, where I'd usually get in the office between 8 and half 8. I'd come in between 9:30 and 10. So I get the extra sleep and I'd finish earlier. Sometimes I finish at 4 this time, sometimes 5. So that itself shortens my day. I think with the rest of the team, we've been flexible. The Muslim members of the team, we've been flexible with them. And if some of them would prefer to start at 11 and finish at 6. And that's fine. And some of them would prefer to start at 9 and finish at 4. And I think it's understanding that there's a human element to it as well, that they're not machines, and the team aren't machines. They do get tired. They haven't eaten for some time. So there's that aspect of it as well. And I think half our team's Muslim. So the other half who aren't Muslim, they understand. And we've been trying to encourage some of them, okay, why don't you fast? And you get the usual, okay, I'm not going to eat in front of you. I'm not going to drink in front of you, the usual. So we have that as well. But I think the key thing is being flexible with yourself and knowing from a business point of view that ultimately our risk is from Allah anyway. So I think this is that 1 month that we see, okay, we might not be working full time, but we're still bearing the fruits. And like you said, our iman does go up and down. And this is that 1 month where it feels like Allah does things, or Allah does things in business that improves or boosts our iman. And that's just not for me. It's for the other members of the team because they see it. And these are the things we would probably mention to the non-Muslim members as well. So, look, we're fasting today, we prayed today, and this is why this happened, or this is why this has become easier. But I think having a good culture is important, whether everyone's Muslim or not Muslim. And us as Muslims, our primary objective isn't work. So just being a good example, and all the Muslim members of the team being a good example for everyone else, especially in this month because they know we're fasting, is value in itself.
Yeah, no, very, very good point. And I'm glad you brought up the point around non-Muslims and interactions with them, and leading them, and being manager or director of a company where you employ non-Muslims too. I work in an organization which is primarily non-Muslim, right? And you get that I won't eat, I won't, because we're all virtual now. I won't drink in front of you on the call, and I'm always quick to say no. I want you to live your life the way you're living it. You don't need to make adjustments, because Ramadan isn't a month where I'm gonna be, I can't see food and water. Actually, I watch food challenges in Ramadan. It spurs me on for iftaring, makes me want to eat more. But so for me, it's not for other people to change their lifestyles to accommodate my lifestyle. Rather, it's me using my lifestyle to educate other people. And alhamdulillah, we had over 200 of my colleagues around the world took part in our fasting challenge where they fasted for a day. Some people fasted for a week, which I was like, wow, I'm really impressed. And how was that possible? It wasn't through, forcing people, why don't you fast? Why don't you fast? Why don't you fast? It was generally, you do it. Why shall I not try it? And it's a really important point for us to know as Muslim employees, Muslim founders, Muslim business owners. Even if our main markets are Muslim based, we will inevitably in the West interact with non-Muslims in all walks of life. And what we don't realize is we are ambassadors of our faith regardless. We might not see ourselves as good Muslims or the perfect Muslims. We might not see ourselves as anything special, but in the eye of a non-Muslim, you are a Muslim. And what you do is a reflection of Islam and Iman. And I was so conscious of that when I joined the workforce, and that's what sort of forced me into trying to better myself as a Muslim, forced me into ensuring everything I do it with the lens of, if someone saw this and was like, is this what Muslims do? And I wouldn't want that to be a negative thing. And that's really heartwarming to hear from local business owners. We've got about 15 minutes left, and I really, really wanted to know, first from you, Zaid, is for someone who's looking to get into he's looking to get into the real estate industry, kickstart a career in real estate, whether that's letting or selling, whether that's quantity surveying or whatever it might be, especially for people from similar backgrounds like you and I, right? We don't have tons of people that are in real estate or in property. We don't have lots of mentors and guides. What tips or advice would you give them for them, to be able to even look into a career in real estate?
I think the most important thing is to educate yourself, whether that's through podcasts, YouTube videos, or even just popping in to a local estate agency and just speaking to someone. For example, we had one of the local schools approach us to speak to one of the students just because he was interested. Again, a local boy from Forest Gate, brought up on a council estate, as he said, and he goes, I just want to know. He goes, I was moving home, council rehoused him, and he goes, I realized I don't know much about it, and I think he was the eldest child. So I think that's one important thing, is to educate yourself. And another thing is to build a network, because like maybe where we are locally, there might not be so many people, or there might not be so many people who want to help, or would be able to give the correct advice. But going to property networking events where you'd meet people from all different backgrounds, from all over London, all over the world, and they give their knowledge, and you learn different schemes, or you just learn about different things. Like you said, there's so many different areas you can get into. You can get into property surveying, you can get into investing, you can get into managing properties, you can get into the build side. There's so many different avenues you can go into. So it's just, I think, educating and networking, they're the two most important things.
Definitely. Thank you. And similar questions to you, Raiz. For someone who's looking to start up their own, business, what advice would you give them in the first place?
Yes, that's a very good question. I think from our point of view, the advice we would give to someone looking to start their own business is to have confidence in their idea, and to make sure that they're surrounded in the right company. Because I mean, I'm a testament to this. I've come up with so many ideas in the past, and I don't know whether they're the right thing. But because I've had good company, I know what to commit to. And not to say you need someone with entrepreneurial experience to tell you, yes, that's the right idea, or don't do that. But you want to make an educated decision. And it comes with two things. It's one, by having a good idea, and two, having the confidence to execute that idea. It's like what you touched on earlier. If you're not sure, or you think you're going to spread yourself too thin and you don't have all of those skills, you shouldn't be deterred because of that. If you can surround yourself with the right people, or you have an idea of, I can get this sort of labor from this place and I can outsource this, then the idea or the hurdle in front of you will become a lot easier to challenge. And from anyone who's looking to start a business, we touched on it here. There's always a way to manage your time. Whether you do little steps in what you're doing, or you do a day's worth of work in what you're doing. If you really, really want to do what you're setting out to do, and the business that you have an idea for and you're passionate about it, then that's something that you should be able to make the time for. Like I said, whether it's in little steps or big steps. And that's one of the reasons we set up Amazing as a marketplace and free to do what it was doing, because we want to make sure that any business owner, whether they're new and existing, or like I said, they've just started out and they're thinking about doing it, such as questions asking, we want to be able to give them the confidence that so long as they've got a good idea and they're in the right way, their community will support them, and that will always give them the confidence. So if we can create a platform like that, I'm hoping, and I'm very hopeful, that will make a decision for someone who's looking to start their own business a much easier decision. But my advice to someone in a nutshell would be, make sure that you don't look at the boundaries in front of you as insurmountable, and make sure you surround yourself with good company to be able to make sure that the decision that you execute is the right one.
Great advice. Thank you both. And just to summarize the general themes that have come up on both your answers, it's company is very important. Good company is very important. It's knowing what you want out of everything. It's organization, and it's confidence. When you think about it, it's such a simple formula for success, right? Confidence times organization times good company equals success. But the reality is, as Muslims, and that mindset we have as Muslims is, we know that all good comes from Allah. Rizq is ordained by Allah. And when you can embed and entrench that mindset within yourself, within your personality, within your way of thinking, what you realize is, what? I'm going to do my absolute best. I'm going to give my 100%. I'm going to, do that metaphorical tying of my camel. And then I'm going to leave it to Allah to ordain what He deems best for me. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, He is the best of planners. And to me personally, that is such a powerful and comforting statement. Allah saying He is the best of planners, and Allah has planned everything in our life, and the way everything is planned to absolute perfection, which you don't even realize, right? The ants that are walking somewhere on your road right now, to the leaf that is falling off the tree, every single thing is planned. And when you think about it in that context, that leaf falling has been planned and ordained by Allah, then why will He, leave me on high and dry? He won't leave me high and
Okay.
dry. I'm gonna keep my trust in him. I'm gonna keep my faith in him. I'm gonna keep tawakkul in him. And the story that comes to mind when I think of that is a story I heard, I think when I was 7 or 8 years old in the mosque, about a very pious person. The name slipped out of my mind, but the story is still pretty much there, and I share it quite regularly. Is, the scholar went to pray in the mosque, and he used to run a shop in the marketplace. After returning from the mosque, on the way to the marketplace, he's seeing like huge chaos and people screaming and shouting, and someone comes to him and goes, Fulan ibn Fulan, your shop is on fire. And obviously now I'm thinking myself, if someone tells you your shop is on fire, your house is on fire, your business on fire, what's the first thing you do? You run towards it and try and work out what's going on. And he goes, Alhamdulillah. And the person goes to him, no, your shop is on fire. Like, just like, sort of, you don't sort of factor what I've said to you. You haven't registered what I've said to you. It's your shop on fire. And he replies, Alhamdulillah again. And the people ask him, oh, what's wrong with you? Your livelihood has gone. And his response, astounding response, was, the Allah that fed me yesterday, that Allah will feed me today, and the Allah that will feed me today will feed me tomorrow. And when you think about it, how strong must his faith have been in Allah to be able to accept that and realize that. But once you reach that level of understanding, that level of faith and belief, you're not scared of anything in the world. You're not scared of doing what you want to do. You're not scared of chasing your dreams. You're not scared of making a stand for topics and points. And we can only pray and we can hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses us all with that perfect Muslim mindset. Allah gives us the ability to realize His powers. Allah gives us the ability to know Him. And that's one element of taqwa, right? God consciousness is being conscious of God. And that's not just from a power perspective and if we do wrong, we're going to be thrown into hell. It's about realizing all the good that comes from Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that he loves us more than 70 mothers. 70 mothers. And it's surreal when you try and think of it, right? Like, if someone tries to capture the love of one mother on a pen and paper, it's probably virtually impossible. And Allah's saying more than 70 mothers. And when you have such a loving, such a caring, such a benevolent God looking after you, that gives me so much comfort, and it gives me so much hope, and it gives me so much serenity in living life, knowing that He's there for us. And coming up to the final part, it's just realizing that, alhamdulillah, we have such amazing people in and around us, amidst us, some that are quiet, some that are loud, but equally great people around us. And whenever I meet Muslim founders and business owners such as yourself, Rais and Zaid, it empowers me so much knowing that there's people out there doing so much great things and so many great things in so many different ways that I could never imagine. I could never run an estate agency. Like, I just couldn't do that, right? It just seems so stressful. I would never be able to run a business on top of my day job, because to me it feels like, wow, what am I going to be able to do? But knowing that there's people out there who are doing so much for themselves, for the ummah, it's astonishing, and it makes me feel proud to be a Muslim. It makes me feel proud to be in a collective body and collective ummah which is doing such greatness. And you two and our three guests from last week are just some examples. These are just some examples. There's, I mean, you must see it, amazing. There's hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds, if not thousands, if not millions of people doing such amazing work. And what I love most about this is how Islam is so enshrined into the business model. It's about educating, it's about treating people with fairness, it's about, going back to that old school example, it's about making sure your scales are not imbalanced and not unfair. And it's a great way. And as we come towards the end of the show, and as we come towards the end of Ramadan, I just like to reiterate to everyone to really go out there, support your local Muslim-owned businesses, empower them. And support doesn't mean you have to buy every product they sell. Support can literally mean, sharing their content on social media. Support can mean making prayer for them. It boggles me how we don't realize that making dua for someone is such an important way of supporting someone. And there's a hadith where the Prophet ﷺ says, when you make dua for someone else, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells the angels, oh angel, make the same dua for this person too. So imagine, you're sitting on that prayer mat in the depth of the night and you're making dua. Ya Allah, grant this person success in their business venture, in their endeavors. And Allah tells the angels, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying your name, oh angel, go tell, make dua for this person, son of this person, and the angels are making dua for you in the court of Allah, that Allah grant this person goodness in their business endeavors too. So really remember those around you in your prayers, support them, help them, give them feedback. It's not just like you said, Rais, that sometimes good company can just be anything you do. This is amazing. This is amazing. You're doing brilliantly, but that's not what's going to help you grow. It's giving them honest feedback. Whether it's a baker's, you've tried something from a baker and it wasn't great, and just letting them know, maybe you need to adjust your recipe a bit. To working in a company like a real estate agency, letting them know where they might have had some shortcomings, because we are humans at the end of the day. We all make mistakes. No one is perfect, and it's about realizing that and accepting that. On our final 80 seconds, just want to shout out Amazing. So please check it out on amazing.com. That's ummazing.com. And check out High Castle Estate, hceuk.com. And check them out for your estate agency needs. Check out Amazing for so many Muslim friendly businesses. And with that, we'll take your leave. Keep us on your prayers, especially in the final few nights. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you, Rais. Thank you, Zaid. Thank you, Ramadan Radio.
Thank you.